Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming out this afternoon. We're honored to be hosting today's guests. This has been a work in progress for a few weeks, and today's guests, as you all know, is Jad and Robert, hosts of Radiolab, and yep. And a very special guest, the avant-cellist Zoe Keating. So, as this room is proof positive, Radiolab is well known around the Google campus for its unique and thought-provoking mix of thought-provoking mix of human curiosity and cutting-edge sound design, covering scientific and cultural topics from often very unique angles. And those of you that have heard their podcast know exactly what I'm talking about. And Zoe, she's known as a one-woman orchestra. She fuses classical cello sounds with modern technology to produce an incredibly rich and dynamic array of music pieces. No two performances of Zoe's are alike, and today will definitely be no exception. Jad, Robert, and Zoe are currently on tour together, performing a live version of Radiolab entitled Symmetry. And on behalf of the Google team, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Radiolab and Zoe Keating.
So we were enjoying the extensively huge green room, which includes a pool. And you probably, because you probably don't come to this building often, there's a golf course over there. It's an enormous.
It's very plush.
So you ready?
Yeah. Hey, everyone.
I'm Robert, and this is
Jad.
and this is Zoe. And we understand that we didn't know what to call you, Googliololos or whatever. However, we got advice from a variety of people. You are Googlers, you are carpooglers, you are gay Googlers, nooglers, zooglers, and maybe, like, if we do this right, there'll be Zoe-googlers and Jadooglers to be. So
We should be so lucky.
yeah. So you want to? I guess the first question is what's unusual about us?
Well, I figure since we're here with Zoe, honored to be here with Zoe, and thank you all for the invitation. We're so happy to be here. We thought we would do something which sketches the sort of, if Zoe and Radiolab overlap, what's that portion of the Venn diagram that we all share. So I'll get things started, then we'll throw to Zoe.
Okay.
Radiolab, as you may know, is a show about all kinds of things, about ideas, it's about questions, it's sometimes about science, it's about storytelling. But if you put the content aside, it is, I hope, a show that when you turn on the radio or hit play on your iPhone or Android phone, it just sounds different. It hits your ears in a different sort of way. So I wanted to kind of start there and just to talk a little bit about what it is that we think about when we're making the show, when we're making the sounds in the show. I think the reason that Radiolab sounds the way it does has to do with how we bleed borders. And I'll tell you what I mean. A while ago, when we were first working on this show, I ran into an essay by a guy named Walter Murch. I don't know if any of y'all know Walter Murch. He's a great film editor. He edited The Godfather. He edited Apocalypse Now, and a ton of other movies. And he wrote this essay, which started with a very simple diagram, where it was a line, and then it had on one side words and on other music. So we're going to basically, in our very sort of low-rent way, do that for you now. So.
I'm sorry for you in the middle back area.
Yes.
Like you can't, but this is going to be for you a true radio experience. I know, like in row 7, you can't see anything.
We are
this will be
radio.
all you'll see. Okay.
We are radio, after all. We don't do pictures.
We don't believe
very
that you
often.
should see anything.
So you've got these two poles of sound. You've got music on one pole and words on the other. Now the idea is pretty simple initially, which is that a word it's an agreement of a kind. So like this thing right here, this table. The only reason we call this thing a table is because sometime long ago some people got together and agreed that the syllables table mean this. But then in the Mediterranean...
It probably wasn't a discrete meeting, but...
No, it was exactly. Yeah. But the point is that the meetings happen differently in different places. In Arabic, we call it tawli. That's somehow what we call this thing. In the Philippines, they call it mesa. So in other words, it's completely arbitrary. It's just a collection of syllables that you, in a sense, have to crack the husk of in order to extract the meaning, which is nothing more than a picture of a table. So that's a word. It is an agreed-upon thing. Now, music requires no agreement. It is for instance, if I play for you... Well, hold on. If I play for you this right here. Now, would you say this means sadness? Does it represent sadness? It just is sad. You know, there's something about this is Adagio for strings, and I'm sorry to do this to you because it's the most manipulative thing ever, but it's just embodies sadness. It's the kind of sound that has no intrinsic meaning. It just it is the thing that it is. It's an emotion embodied. So in a sense, the difference, as would you like to register a
just
discriminant?
as a footnote, if you were living in the center of the Brazilian jungle and had no sense of this kind of music, you might hear it and think it was joyous, or
no, that's absolutely true. But you wouldn't.
But I don't know. You might not. I don't know.
But anyway, this is a big debate actually as to whether music has a universal meaning. But my point is simply that it is not a linguistic meaning. It is somehow an embodied meaning. So what you've got are on the one pole words, which is an encoded sound. It's a code that you have to crack. And then here you've got an embodied sound. And that's how the schematic that Walter Murch laid out. Now, I think Radiolab works when it does, sonically, because we confuse the two. So I'm going to play you a little 3-minute thing that some of you may recognize, and then we'll deconstruct. This is the opening to a show, one of the first shows that Robert and I worked on together.
And let's begin today with something deceptively familiar.
Fireflies are something that we have all loved as kids, right? Catching them in the backyard, putting them in a jar and watching them glow. So we don't tend to think of them as anything all that mysterious. Well, they do one thing very nicely, which is flash on and off.
That's all fireflies do, flash. But what interests Steve Strogatz, a mathematician at Cornell University, is that there are places in the world,
Not here, but in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia or Thailand,
where fireflies don't just flash randomly like we're used to. They somehow flash together.
there are enormous congregations of fireflies along riverbanks.
How many?
It could be tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
Tree after tree, extending for literally miles along the rivers, all flashing in sync like a Christmas tree. Rows and rows of Christmas trees all wired together going off. And it's one of the most hypnotic and spellbinding spectacles in nature because you have to keep in mind it is absolutely silent. I mean, picture it. There's a riverbank in Thailand in the remote part of the jungle. You're in a canoe slipping down the river. There's no sound of anything, maybe the occasional, exotic jungle bird or something. And you're looking and you just see whoop, 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 with thousands of lights on and then off, all in sync.
Imagine all the trees, as far as you can see, are all brilliantly lit and then totally dark. Brilliantly lit, total darkness.
All of them in sync.
Yeah, and no Westerner had ever seen this site. There was folklore, there was the stories about it, but nobody'd gone in and photographed and captured samples.
Well, not until 1965.
This was done by John Buck,
John Buck, B-U-C-K.
one of the great researchers.
According to the records, I'm 92.
Buck and his wife,
Elizabeth Mast Buck.
went to Thailand and captured bags full of male fireflies.
You could just reach up and shake the branches and the fireflies would rain down.
And brought them back to their hotel room.
And we turned off the lights.
We turned them loose.
And saw that the fireflies flittered around on the walls and ceiling.
They flew back and forth.
Flashing randomly.
Elizabeth lay on the floor of the room.
I was just tired. John stayed awake, and he was the one who saw.
Within a few minutes, little groups, duos and trios formed.
And after a while,
The fourth one would join in.
they got closer and closer together. And then finally they were synchronized.
The whole room was blinking in perfect harmony.
He was excited the next morning when he told me about it.
20 years later, John Buck is still asking this question
Well, what is going on?
because no one knows.
There are literally 10 theories.
What seems to be clear, says Steve, is there is no one firefly that makes it all happen. It just happens on its own. Order materializes out of nothing.
I'll stop it right there. So that was how we opened up a show, which ultimately was on the idea of groupthink and how does groupthink. I'm just gonna fix this damn microphone real fast. How does groupthink come out of individuals who are, like myself at this very moment, not so smart? There we go. That's better. So we go on to talk about all kinds of things, but I wanted to zero in for just a moment on the visual picture of the fireflies as they're flashing on and off. Now, there's a case where you've got music. You want to put up your music? You've got your music.
And let's begin today.
Whoops. So here's the music. It's giving you a feeling. It's embodying a feeling, but you've also got the words.
It's one of the most hypnotic and spellbinding spectacles in nature because you have to keep in mind it is absolutely silent. I mean, picture it. There's a riverbank in.
So you've got words and music on either end, but you've also got this thing that happens in about 10 seconds into the scene, which is the bird, the sound of a bird. So where does that fit in? Well,
Strogatz said there's the occasional sound of the bird.
exactly,
Yeah,
and
so-
you hear.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a word.
What if he
right?
said there's the occasional sound of a tricycle? Would you have had a tricycle?
If it made sense to have a
Yeah,
tricycle,
okay.
sure. So you've got now a slightly, it's not exactly a word, it's certainly not music, but it's something like a word. So it's a linguistic sound. So let's just take this little bird. Can we affix it to, say, your elbow here? There.
My elbow, because it's closer to.
It's closer to words, right? So you've got that. So, but then you get to a certain point where you've got the words, you've got Steve, you've got the music, you've got a bird, you've got the sound of water at a certain point. But then you also have fireflies. And I remember as we were making this, we were like, what do fireflies sound like? They don't actually make sound.
Remember also, Strogatz said that this whole event takes place in total silence.
That's
So
right.
we're violating some rule that he set up.
Absolutely. Oh, you're about to lose your bird.
I'm going to lose my bird.
Well, okay, it's on your hip now. Well, all right. Well, the bird is on his elbow in our imagination. So fireflies was an interesting thing, and I think fireflies for me captures something about what we try and do on the show always. They don't make sound, but you want to evoke it in sound, but there's no sound effect for a firefly, and thank God. So after much trial and error, here's the sounds we came up with. That's the bird. Just that. No firefly in the history of creation ever made that noise, but somehow it creates for you an impression of a firefly. Now, where would you put this? Well, this, I think, I would put it probably on your chin. There. It's smack in the middle. It's evoking something like the image that you would get from a word, but it's not doing it literally. It's a musical gesture that somehow creates the impression. And for me, this moment and some subsequent moments were kind of an epiphany. I was like, if we can do that, if we can get right between them, you can create a sonic space that is precise in the way that you need it to be, which is what a sound effect will give you. But it won't date the way that a sound effect does. It won't sound canned the way that a sound effect does. Anything I say over this music sounds poignant. It's amazing. But
Out of curiosity, the three elements of the sound of the fireflies seemed like there were three parts. Do you go to what
You mean
trunk of sounds do you look? Yes, that.
it's a little bit of the music, and then I made the beep kind of a third above it. So it's just a little tiny stack. And then this, I cannot remember how I made that noise.
But these sounds are all software developed. You take a sound that you find on a record or in a file somewhere, and you screw it up. a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, sometimes you steal it. Most of the time you screw it up. You filter it so you get these little high squeals or something that in some
I
way
wouldn't say
create
you
the picture.
steal it in public. I would say what you do is you made it so different from what it was that it became an original act. That's what you were looking for.
That's yes. Thank you for legalistically putting me in the right place. But so for me, that sort of talks about that's for me the key of Radiolab. So that firefly right there on your breastbone is where we try and live.
So Zoe, your music is also, as we're about to hear, is a pile up of sounds also. Mm-hmm. Your sounds come from this instrument. Yes. Can you then explain like what else you got?
So I've got this cello. His name is Ariège, and he's from France. He's very sensitive. Is
Ariège a girl name or a boy name?
He's a boy.
Boy.
Yeah. And so I play Ariège, and I record the sounds in real time into the computer, and I use a bunch of MIDI controls to do that. And then I just play these layers of sound back at the audience, and I play on top of them so that you have like little pieces that make up a whole larger piece.
And like Jad is trying to evoke something specific, but he's trying to invent a vocabulary, as he puts it, in the middle to find that specificity. When you compose, do you compose to pictures in your head or moods or what?
It's very hard to say. I would call it an emotional landscape that is made of emotion and light and color and direction. It's sort of this. It's like a feeling, and I imagine it as a three-dimensional space.
You do?
Yeah, definitely. And when I record the sounds and I place them in the sonic spectrum for the audience or on a CD, it's very much like I'm crafting a shape. These little shapes that make a larger shape, that make a larger shape, a larger shape, and they have some kind of meaning to me that is absolutely impossible to express in words, which is why I can only do it with music.
But you're in the right place when the shape is present in your mind, or is it like filling a container to get to a shape? Or do you arrive early, or do you arrive along the way?
Can you rephrase that question?
Well, you say...
By a shape, I mean, like, for example, like it might be some sort of semi-translucent,
Oh, don't even
thing.
try to describe it. Just play something.
Well, I think I'm going to play, since that music was so nice, I think I'm going to play a piece called Sun Will Set. And now, I have a real hard time naming pieces because I don't like to put meaning on them. And one thing I love about this piece in particular is I wrote it a while ago, and I get emails all the time from people who tell me what it means to them and what it is and their meaning, and they're totally certain about it.
And you think they're totally...
Well,
right? Wrong?
Well, the thing is that it means whatever it means to you at that moment, and that's completely valid interpretation. So it might have meant something when I wrote it, and then it meant something when I mixed it. It was totally different. And then it means something different. It's different every time I play it on stage. It has a different meaning.
So now, for the very first time ever, is a composition that you have already played many times before.
Yes.
Well, just go ahead.
Wow. Zoe, can I ask you a question about that song? Since we were talking about sort of the ways in which music can or cannot evoke meaning or pictures of that kind of thing, and you called that song "Sun Will Set," right? I was just thinking musically, actually, in a way, the sun doesn't need to set because your loops can always just keep going.
There
in a
you
way.
go.
You know?
Well, it was sort of, the sun will set, out here in California, we enjoy these really long sunsets. And so, those ones that like never end and they go on and on and on and on and on and on.
I was curious if you had dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum, if in the first iteration you had made a mistake, so you went boom, ba-da-da-da-da-dum, boom.
That
you then
happens.
stuck with the mistake, right? As your foot is, then what do you do?
That happens all the time.
Wait,
Yeah.
So then are you?
That's
you
how I
have
write
to,
new music. Yeah, actually, a surprising amount of my music comes from mistakes.
In what sense?
Well, in that, I'm recording something and I might do it wrong, and then you have to save the piece by playing the rest of the loops to go along with the thing you did wrong. And then that might or might not lead to something interesting. So
You've been interested in loops, right?
Yeah, actually. There was a moment for me, actually, when the idea of looping became very, very, very interesting. I'd love to play, if you guys are okay, with a 3-minute piece. If you're thinking back to the words and music sort of dichotomy that you had up, there was a moment where I realized that it was sort of a Zoe moment, really, where I realized that words could become music instantly. This is a short introduction to another show, which just sort of makes that point. Doesn't need much setup, so I'll just play it.
I'll tell you what happened is that when you do post-production, as you know...
Oh, I should just say that woman speaking is Diana Deutsch. She's a music psychologist. And this is describing a realization that she had that we used in our story.
I'll tell you what happened is that when you do post-production, as you know, of speech, you loop things, so that you can zero in on P's that sound too loud, you need to unpop, or S's that sound too sharp and so on. So you put things on loops in order to fine-tune the way the speech sounds. So I had this particular phrase on a loop and forgot about it.
What phrase was this?
It's a phrase that occurs at the beginning of the CD in which I say, the sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely as to seem quite impossible. Now, I had sometimes behave so strangely looped. The sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely. Just those few words. Sometimes behave so strangely. And forgot about it. Sometimes behave so strangely.
So here's what happened. Diana leaves her studio. She closes the door, goes into the kitchen to make some tea. All the while, this loop is whirring away in the background. As she's sipping her tea, she thinks, is someone singing? Who's singing?
I heard what sounded like song in the background.
She realized, wait a second. That's not singing, that's me. Talking.
That very phrase. So strangely. But at this point, sometimes behaves so strangely. It appeared to be sung rather than spoken. So strangely. Sometimes behaves so strangely. This is sometimes behaves so strangely, right? Yeah. You still hear the words, but they're sung words rather than spoken words.
It's weird, like it just switches at a certain point. 3 or 4 repetitions in.
Right.
It's going, and then pow! It becomes music. And then now none of us can get it out of our head. Like the whole office is like, sometimes behave so strangely.
Sometimes behave so strangely.
And you know what? If you do this demo and then you go back to the original sentence, it sounds like, speech to begin with. And when you come to that very phrase, I seem to be bursting into song. The sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely as to seem quite impossible. I have to say this can continue for months and months. It's sort of like your brain gets altered for that particular phrase, and it continues to sound like singing for a very, very long time.
All right, so here we have just one small indication that music is, well, it behaves very strangely. I'll just bring it up, drop it out there. But it's one of those things where it makes you realize, like, if a word repeated could become music, then what the hell is music really? Do
you when you hear your own phrases that you have invented for certain pieces, do they sometimes seem fresh to you, sometimes stale to you because things are going round and round?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the tricks of being a performer is to try to make your pieces new every day, if you're performing day after day. And I know that things are going well if I can play a little phrase and I don't get bored. But often it's such a subtle difference. It's like, it's some really subtle thing that happens at the end of a bar, that makes it interesting for 5 minutes or interesting for 10 seconds.
and when it's a 10-second, when you're having an ACD moment with the phrase, can you bury it? I mean, like it's in this machine. It's like, can you say with your foot, go away now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Yet there is something about what both of you do, is that you both play with time in an interesting way. For you, something is made and then goes round and round and round and builds. And it seems like you were always thinking about more, less, stop, go. It's interesting. Why do you guys like each other?
Yeah. She's nice.
I'm making a presumption, but...
I mean, for me, I'll speak about what I find fast. I mean, I think Zoe's music is amazing. So I mean, it's not an entirely rational thing, but I like imagining that when you're playing there's first just one Zoe, and then suddenly there are 2 Zoes, and then there are 4 Zoes, and then there are 8, and suddenly there's an entire quantum orchestra that's created in the moment, and the Toscanini is your left foot there.
But it is kind of true in a way. I spent most of my teenage years playing in orchestras, and it was like a peak experience for me. It was to play in an orchestra. And then it did kind of dawn on me recently that I might have recreated the cello section for myself digitally.
Can you do one before we get to questions and answers? Is there anything else you'd like to just you and your foot?
Do my foot.
Yeah, to play. I mean.
Yeah, I could play.
And your hand. I
I'll
shouldn't
play
really
another piece.
demote your hand.
Yeah, I'll play another piece.
It's just the foot is so interesting.
This one has some starting and stopping in it, which you might like.
Okay.
Yeah. These, thank you. My socks are very slippery.
Your socks are slippery.
Yeah, I don't usually play in socks. I have special performance shoes that have, toes that are like pointy and rubber and very elegant shoes. And I didn't bring them, so I have to do socks.
Where do you shop for cello feet shoes?
Yeah, it's not something you can look for on Zappos. It's not one of the categories.
So what is it? The original intended use for the shoe that you use was jogging, or
I think just looking nice.
looking nice?
Yeah.
Okay. Question time. The only rule I was told was that apparently if you can't get to a microphone, then you just shout it out and I'll repeat it. If you can, which is there's one here, and then let's do that. Well, let's see you. We have to turn on the mic there.
Check 1, 2. Hi,
Okay.
thank you for coming. Love the show. For me, the third dimension from words and music, if I had to stretch it out, would be imagery. And I found it was hard for me in Zoe's first song to block out that imagery that came with that song. I believe it was on TEDxSF, their website. Correct? So
I didn't know that.
I had a hard time.
Oh, this is hardcore fandom here.
I didn't know that.
The
was on
shoe
the website.
salesman with her who sold her the thing will be along shortly, I think.
But the subsequent song is much easier to not have pre-acquired image
it's
in my
like
mind.
when you hear something in a
the
commercial.
image that you were bringing?
They
to
were
the-
city shots of the San Francisco Bay Area and the bridges.
Wow. I'm going to have to see this.
So I was curious. I saw also that you played mostly with your eyes closed, and it helped me with the later songs just to close my eyes. Very different watching you versus just having my eyes closed. So does that help you in forming that three-dimensional shape that you have in mind?
Yeah, I'm a very deliberate eye closer. I close my eyes for two reasons. One is that I don't know if you know, but when I close my eyes, I'm invisible. And so, and it really helps me perform when I know that I'm invisible. And the second reason is that it just helps me.
It's alarming to the rest of us.
Yeah, it is. But you could just the cello remains.
Uh-huh.
But and the other reason is that sort of landscape of sound that I was talking about, that it's like I can see it when I close my eyes, and if I open my eyes, well, I see you, and it's like it makes it very hard. This disconnect between what I'm seeing and what I'm creating with the music. So if I close my eyes, then it's right there.
Are they all with you in that place, or are you by yourself?
The landscapes? No,
yeah.
I'm definitely not alone by any means. Yeah.
I close my eyes when we work, actually. Do you close yours?
You do close your eyes.
I do.
Because often I'm gesticulating like.
No, I do it.
I do
it. I don't know why. I just don't. I want to be by myself in tandem, but
together but alone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I close my eyes when I'm listening to, when I'm not driving. But anyway, thanks for the show. I mean, it's amazing how you bring science and sound effect and everything in a so compelling way. So one thing, and this show definitely sounds different from anything else on the radio or anywhere. One thing I know that you do every show, that you get people who appeared on the show to read the credits, and so I'm just wondering, do you just really play back everything they recorded on your answering machine, or you edit it out some way?
You mean do we use their voices? You mean like fumbles and the mispronunciation?
Thank you, Jed Abumrad.
Yes,
did I get that right?
Part of the whole thing for us is just because we're two idiots who are wandering through the world trying to figure things out, and somewhere along the way we started doing this whole credits thing, because the credits are one of these puzzles.
We're not allowed to say them. It's a legal thing. Apparently, the people at NYC decided that hosts of any editorial product should not advertise. So then the choice to say money brought to you by blah blah blah, blah was not available to us.
And it's also, it's generally like it's tune-out time when someone hears the credits. So we're like, how can we make it not a tune-out moment and make it kind of a fun moment? And so we had people start reading the credits, and they instantly mispronounce my name 400 times. Every time we were like, this is kind of funny. It somehow reinforced the notion of ourselves that we have, which is that we're not going to take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah,
There's also, I
your
think,
name, the name of the foundations that fund you.
Well, we try and keep those from not being pronounced, because they have less of a sense of humor about it than I do.
But I think there's another sort of a richer thought here that all journalism is a package, and when it's done on ABC or NBC, you know the package very well, and when it's done on NPR, you know the package very well, actually. So we decided to make that a little bit more transparent. So we have people whose headphones fall off in the middle of interviews and then have to find them on the floor. We always keep that stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Hi, my name's Mark, and Zoe, I just wanted to say first that your music is extraordinary. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Mark,
coming.
I would like to say that your T-shirt is extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, I love that
I'm
T-shirt.
surprised I'm not seeing more. Go to chopshop.com or whatever it is. They're great. For Jad and Robert, I think Google and Radiolab share a mission in some sense. That is organizing information and making it accessible. There's some things I think Google does better than you, but there are a lot of things I
Like
think
what?
Scale.
Just asking.
Scale.
Scale
in different languages.
That's fair.
Revenue might be another one,
revenue.
too. Yeah.
So, but there's some things that I think that you do a lot better than us. For one thing, I think making stories and information sticky. And I know you did a show on that, but also you make it consumable in a way that I can do other things while I'm consuming the information. I can drive, I can work out, I can do things like that. So my question for you is this. In Google search in particular, I think we're stuck on the words end of that spectrum. So how would you fix Google search?
How much should we charge for this answer?
Yeah.
You can think about it and do a show on it.
How do you fix Google search? Does Google still have the I just want to get lucky option?
In many ways, yes.
Okay. All right. I think that came out of my mouth wrong, but I think you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, one of the things that Google doesn't do very much of is we do leave the written word and the literal words behind, and we do play with the sounds a lot. And so the business of searching for an answer, you're right. A lot of journalism is done where a reporter goes, decides on a question that they want to solve, then goes and reads a book and interviews people and takes notes and gets it down, and then in a voice as authoritative as they can, trying to sound omniscient, they say, and so the sort of sound. And our plan right from the beginning was to say, we don't know. We begin by stumbling around. And you see, people use Google to stumble, but we are actually trying to figure something out. What's very interesting for us is because we wanted people to hear what it's like to ask stupid questions, what it's like to argue in the middle of an investigation, what it's like to interpret data. We had a huge fight about falling cats the other month. We wanted to let people know that there is that it's not a binary business, that you don't know, beep, you know, that there's a middle. Mm-hmm. And the middle is where most people live, and the middle is where most people are afraid to go. If you don't think you're going to understand something, you try to wait for someone else to solve it for you. What our secret advertisement is you can too. Like, look at us.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it's funny, it's like to applying that to the search question, given that there is no bright, shining line between knowledge and ignorance, that the hierarchy of the search results sometimes is misleading, and there's such a premium place on being first or second or third or on that first page. And there's something about the format which sort of creates an expectation of relevance that somehow maybe if you could confound that in some way, but still keep it ordered. So there's some sort of presentational thing that maybe they could represent the information in a different way, in a different dimension.
Yeah, because I always think when you're looking for an answer, sometimes as in a library, you get caught in the middle of your search by some other idea, and then you just turn around and suddenly you're doing something else. And the fun and the surprise of looking for one thing and finding another is missing in a very teleological, very directed search. Mm-hmm. In Google land, So you want to know X, we'll move step by step by step inevitably towards X. Mm-hmm. Whereas we say, you want to know X, oh, Y is nice, and then, and you forget why you came here. In Google, you don't ever forget. I mean, actually, that's not fair.
I'm not sure that makes a terrible amount of business sense to give people what they don't want, but yeah. We'll get back to you on that, and we'll send you a bill, too.
All right. I look forward to the emails. Thank you very much.
So a while ago, and I don't know if you're still doing this or not, you could send a text to a number to donate $10 to WNYC. And I thought that was a really great idea. And so one thing I wanted to encourage you, so this is my question, which is really a thinly disguised request, is could you encourage WNYC to allow people to donate easily? Because when I tried, every time I hear Radiolab, I'm like, I really want to support these guys. So I go to WNYC and I start filling out the form, and then I get to the second page, and I'm still filling out a form, and then I get to a third page, and I'm like, I don't want to tell you how much my median income is. I just want to give you money. Just take the money, please. So yes, I would love if you would, encourage the encouragement of your program.
Okay. We are in a peculiar situation where we have a large number of listeners who are very much in that mood, and we are terrible business people, and we haven't quite figured out how to pluck coins from their pockets, because I think we also get lost. I think we're so busy making the thing that we forgot to pay for the thing in a way, and so we do have to get back to it. We do have a lot of homework to do in that area. Yeah.
But the business model is basically what you are the business model, basically. I like you, I would like to support you, So yeah, you're right. The mechanism of that is sometimes clumsy, and we're working on it. But it's all about just people, in a sense, giving you money from their heart in a way, and
she's making a pile
on
heart.
We have a lot to learn from her.
How much do you charge on iTunes for your songs?
Well, I mean, iTunes is flat. It's like a 99 cents per song.
Yeah,
but on Bandcamp, I have a minimum of $8 for an album.
Minimum of $8.
Yeah.
What's your average receipt?
Can they give you more than $8?
Yeah, they can give me anything they want, and so some people will give me $100 or $50, but the average is $12.
So the average is well above what's required. Mm-hmm. So is that a kiss?
It's definitely a kiss.
It's a kiss.
Yeah.
See, so there's a big fat kiss out there, and all you have to do is just get your lips next to it. It's like she's closer than we are. But that's a business model, is to pucker somehow.
And I had one the mistake earlier on of mentioning Radiohead kind of actually got me thinking of, there's actually Radiohead uses some of the same techniques you use in sound editing, and I'm wondering, are they an inspiration to you? Is it something that you try to strive towards, or
we're suing them?
Yeah.
Will you tour with them soon?
Radiohead, those guys are inspired by the same people that we're inspired by sonically. I mean, that's a rock band that pulls in kind of avant-classical influences. It pulls in electronic influences. It's not concerned with genre borders, and I think we're the same way. I mean, the fun of it, just on the craft level, and also just in the sort of chatty level, is to disrespect borders. So an interview becomes a weird bit of radio theater, which then becomes a strange sonic landscape, which then just becomes a conversation again. Those sort of very distinct borders that you'll hear in other shows are the very things we try and destroy, just for fun. And I think Radiohead has the same approach to music. Not inspired by them specifically, although I like them, personally.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have some here also. I guess these come from somewhere, but go ahead. I will.
Are you sure?
Yes,
okay.
Go ahead.
This is for Zoe. I actually grew up playing cello, and so I love what you do for multiple reasons. I mean, obviously I'm at Google, so I'm a huge tech nerd, so I love what you do with that. I also, I personally never enjoyed playing in symphony very much, so I love that you get to do what you want. And really bring out the cello music, because of course it's the best instrument. But yes, big cello geek. So anyway, my question for you.
You're going to be killed by a violist one day.
Yeah, that might happen. Yep, that might. My question for you is, when you're not writing your own music, how do you hone your craft? Is there certain classical music that you still learn and practice? How do you hone your craft?
Yeah, actually, I do practice classical music because there's nothing quite like it for improving your technique, because I can get really lazy if I just do what I want. It's like I just go to the fridge and I keep eating the pickles, left to my own devices. So occasionally I go and
There's a metaphor for you.
and I practice. I really like to work through. I have all these books of orchestral excerpts, which is the cello parts for various symphonies. So I like to play that because it's really good. Symphonic music is all about blending, and so I work hard to blend. And then I also spend a lot of time improvising. Like, it's really important, not just on my own, but when I can with other people, because just to sort of broaden your horizons and then just allow myself to make mistakes, because I have a tendency to make things more and more and more and more and more perfect until they're dead. And it's important to add that element of chaos back in. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Before we go to the next question, though, you should stand by. This comes from Kate. This must be from the diaspora of Google, like Google Other Campus? No?
Yep.
Where is this from? Where are these people? Oh, from Radiolab's Facebook page. Oh, our own people. Okay. But are they part of this? Are they looking at us? Oh, okay. Hello, Kate B. That's her name, Kate B-E-E, as in the insect, which is a nice thing. If you could collaborate with anyone living, artist, scientist, writer, anyone, who would it be, and what would the project be? Jad, and you.
What was the question? If I could collaborate,
you could collaborate with anyone living. He could be, she could be a scientist, a writer, a DJ, artist, anyone. Who would you like to collaborate with?
Zoe, you go first.
Oh no, I was just hoping you would go first so that I could think.
Well, okay. Here's my roundabout way of answering that question. So, recently I've been really fascinated. What? Well, you and I are already collaborating.
Oh, okay.
This is an aspirational question, right? This is someone who's not.
I didn't want to be left out. That's
okay. Robert Krulwich.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Oh, well, yes. There's a. Recently, I've been really fascinated by this guy Joshua Davis, who does visual art, and he works with computers. And he programs these computers to make pictures for him. He'll give the computer certain rules, having to do with shapes and how the shapes intersect and which colors go together. And then he just hits the spacebar, and the computer just barfs out thousands of pictures. And there's some of them are ugly, and some of them are amazingly beautiful. And he then acts as a kind of curator, and he's like, no, oh, that's nice, no, that's nice. And he then, basically, he's the curator of his machine's artistic output. And there's something kind of cool about that for me. There's something very of this moment, that the machines have become so brilliantly capable, but artistically dumb. They don't know what's pretty. They don't know what's good, but they can make things that are much better than us at this point. So, I don't know. Maybe I'd collaborate with Joshua Davis's machines.
That's a good answer. I know who I want to collaborate with, but I don't know who they are yet. So if that answers the question.
Well, so if that's a shape in your head, what kind of a shape?
What I really want to do is I want to collaborate with someone to try to render this landscape in a visual way, like as I'm playing it on stage, and just sort of experiment with that in a sort of projections or graphical environment on stage.
But you've done that before in some way, right?
I've done it in small bits, but never fully, somebody who's really involved in going all out to try to figure it out as a problem. So I'm actually looking for that person. So.
Google. Well, maybe you're that person. Who are you?
My name is Hunter. Hello.
Hi, Hunter.
Actually, very small graphics ability. Actually, I had a question for Zoe. The new album is awesome. Don't Worry is what I wake up to every morning.
Thanks.
But I was wondering, so you do a lot of textual, with everything being laid on top of each other. And I was wondering, are you thinking about doing anything with Sonicscape, kind of stereo, have things kind of at different points so that you can hear different parts and pull it out?
You mean more like doing things like just with less instruments, or?
No. Like instead of stereo, like having like 5.1 or some sort of like three-dimensional soundscape.
Of course, I'm always for more, bigger, better, more. More dimensions, yes.
Right. Okay.
I actually I have a recording that I'm going to work on next, which would be the idea is to do it as high res as possible with like surround sound. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Have you considered ever releasing any songs as like multi-track so other people could play around with it?
Yes, people ask all the time, and I have a sort of a database of loops because every time I have a performance, the loops are there. I save them, and so since I used to be an information architect, I thought I should just make some way to categorize them all, and then people could
Wouldn't it be
pick
cool
and
if
choose from the database of
moment
loops.
you performed it, somehow there was some back-end thing that was just throwing them into the internet?
It would be pretty. I don't know if somebody might find that useful.
Somebody here, I bet, could do that in like 5 minutes.
Cool. Well,
okay, you've had awesome. 4 questions. You have oh, good. Thank you. This one, before you go, this is from Jeff Seamster. He wants to know, what are your 3 favorite sounds?
I love trains.
Trains. That's one. While you're thinking of the other 2, 3 favorite sounds.
The hum of the refrigerator.
You're making this up, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's my favorite, but
okay,
it's on the list somewhere.
All right, my son's giggle.
Yeah. Okay.
We like that.
I'll throw that one on too.
Okay. While you're thinking, you go ask something.
So Robert, earlier you asked how Zoe and Jad are alike, and it occurred to me, especially listening to their answers to the questions, that one of the really interesting ways is how you play with the intersection between craftsmanship and serendipity in the things that you produce. And I guess that's one of the things as well that makes Radiolab sound so interesting and so different to me, is how, and Zoe, your music as well, whereas the classical piece is very well crafted and very well honed, and while a normal radio piece is often very scripted and has that authoritative voice that you mentioned, Radiolab is much more conversational, has much more serendipity kind of thrown in. And so I guess my question is about your process, how you balance the two. Do you just get a bunch of stuff together, do you get a bunch of music together, and then you hone and hone and hone, that's what you produce, or do you have to kind of go back and forth sometimes? How does that work?
Our method is completely ridiculous by almost any measure. It's conceived as an anti-Ira Glass, I think, because we very much admire him, but we couldn't bear to be like him. We just want to be like as good but different, and that's actually hard. He's so good in so many places. So we decided just stupidly that one of the things he does a lot is he reads. Everybody on that show reads from a script. So we decided arbitrarily, we're not reading. Well, that led to the most bizarre production system ever invented by anyone.
Yeah, see, what'll happen is, like, one of us will make a thing. We'll come in with our thing, and it's really, like, it's made. It's, like, indelible and perfect, and, like she was saying, dead, right? And then we'll, like, put it there, and then we'll start yakking at it. We'll throw all the yak in, and then it gets really long and loose and flabby. And then we're like, oh, it's long and loose and flabby. So we cut it back. Cut, and it's kind of beautiful again, but it's not totally dead, but it's sort of dead. So we're like, okay. So then we yak at it again, put that back in, and it's a little less flabby, but then it needs to get cut back.
What this means, by the way, in real life, is that we are actually going into the studio, and we have sound that goes, and then I go, and we put it all together, and then that sounded good, and then we do the whole thing over again, because we didn't like it. And then we take it and some of the previous one, and we do that over again. And then it gets down to wheedly things because of the musician in him. He'll say, like, that should be the answer. I said, well, I just said that. He said, no, you said that should be the answer. That should be the answer. So we go, and it gets like that. It gets really ridiculous.
Does it really get like that, Robert? I mean, honestly, let's just think about it. Do we ever talk that? No, it's all just like vomited out, and it gets edited into being. It is actually on some level improvised. Almost everything in the show.
That's true. So yes, it's musical, really. The logic of it is musical, and that's That's the difference, I guess. I think other journalism outfits just try to be authoritative and right and on time, and ours has to be beautiful in some way that sort of exists right between us. And we don't have the same sense of beauty all the time, except in the very, very last iteration, we kind of do. Yeah. It would be as if you had a vase, and he had an iris and a daisy and a tulip, and I had an iris and a daisy and a tulip, and you can put them in any, you can snip them and over. And the thing is, you have to agree at a certain point that that's a beautiful arrangement. And it's so delicate and so weird and so hard to get. And then when you get it, we seem to agree.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, I think you actually, in your question, kind of captured it really. It is, in some sense, about a kind of like a gladiatorial duel between the part of you that likes to organize and the part of you that wants anarchy, you know. And the two of them have to they have to fight to a draw. I feel like for Radiolab to get a special groove.
Okay, let's thank you. We'll have one more, and then maybe a Zoe, and then we'll waltz out of here.
Hi, thanks again for coming. I'm Dan. So currently, public radio is sort of under attack in a lot of ways, and Radiolab is a show that often engages in sort of big philosophical questions that often have political implications about, you know, humanness and life and all that stuff. And I was just wondering if you guys have come under any scrutiny or had been criticized at all from listeners or people within sort of the larger public radio world. And if so, how do you deal with that? How do you respond?
We've been criticized, not in the way that public radio is being criticized now, but we get criticized for using too many sounds. We get criticized sometimes by, very rarely actually, by scientists who feel like we're being too poetic or we're using too many metaphors. We get criticized by people who don't want to hear so many layers. They just want to hear someone talking in a plain, simple way. We get those kinds of those criticisms constantly. Not the other kind.
Yeah, I don't know
thankfully.
How we've been exempt from. I mean, we don't have a right-wing kind of cabal as saying, yeah, we know the real reason why you chose looping for your show. It's part of the. No, we don't. I don't know how we've avoided those people, but they. Yeah, socialist looping. We haven't had that.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question?
Yeah.
Robert, I heard a rumor that you have an impression of conservative talk radio. Is that true?
No, I don't.
Do you have an impression of NPR?
I like. I mean, frankly, some of the people who do conservative talk radio are very talented. They can be very funny.
Rush Limbaugh actually is. If you've ever listened to him in the morning, it's kind of amazingly produced. I mean,
but I don't do impressions of him though. Yeah. I've actually had problems because I was at one point suspended from NPR because I have a Zelig problem. So I can listen if I listen to something intensely or go to a place where everybody's talking in a certain way, I inadvertently talk like them. So I was suspended once for going to the Texas State Fair at NPR and becoming a Texan inadvertently. I didn't hear that I was one. And that happened again when I was interviewing the President of the United States' national security advisor, who was Polish. Zbigniew Brzezinski was his name. And the interview started, and I said, how are you doing? He said, I'm Zbigniew Brzezinski. And I think in the middle, I was saying, so you have a whole... and that was very bad. So that's why I try to avoid impressions whenever possible. But thank you very much for not avoiding us, like so many of you.
Yes, thank you very much.
So let's hear one more from Zoe, and then we'll say goodbye. Do you have anything you want to...
Well, if you guys can bear to hear Optimist again.
Oh,
we
God,
can.
Always.
Yes, we could.
Okay. Please.
I dropped my bow.
Optimists never drop their bow. You have to change the song now.
It's a cool story. This song for you came from a cool place. You just want to set it up real fast?
It's a song that I wrote for my son Alex, who's 10 months old, and I wrote it when he was -4 months. So, yeah, I hope he likes it.
So he's into this tune in all kinds of ways.
Well, again, thanks so much for having us. We had a great time. It's really cool and inspiring to be here, and we'll be hanging out. So.
Thanks.